Yes, you're right.
Good evening. Yeah, loads to talk about with the old Champions League
special.
Yeah, we'll be with you in in 30 seconds. Hello there, time now for Back Pages Tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us are Henry Winter from Sports Illustrated, excuse me, Martin Hardy from The Times. Welcome to you both. Let me catch my breath as I run you through the back pages. Okay, I've caught my breath. Let's start with The Guardian. And as you can see, the headline there, Slot's Dutch disaster. After a terrible night for Liverpool in the Champions League, they lose 4-1 to PSV Eindhoven. It's the same story in The Express with the headline, Slot's lot have lost the plot. They also feature Arsenal's win against Bayern Munich and a goal fest in Paris as Spurs lose 5-3 to PSG. More coverage of Liverpool in the Telegraph as well. Plus news of former Newcastle owner Mike Ashley making a £20 million bid to buy Sheffield Wednesday. And is there a new special one at Chelsea? This is what the Metro are reporting. They reflect on Esteval's recent performances for the Blues, labelling him the special one. Okay, I've caught my breath, gents. I think my coughing fit is over, so let's get straight into the Champions League, because what a night it was. The English clubs, an up and down night, shall we say. We'll start with Liverpool, who was not a good night for them. A third straight defeat in a row, Henry. Back of the Express here, Slot's lot, excuse me, have lost the plot. This is now the third game in a row where they've conceded 3 goals. Just how bad have things got for Liverpool, Henry?
Jess, I think there'll be a lot of Liverpool fans who've been left speechless tonight by some of the defending. Kanate was poor for the third goal, promptly got subbed by Arne Slot. Virgil van Dijk, who for Liverpool over the last 6-7 years, probably even longer, has been such a leader. He's lost that aura. He's giving away mistakes. That's another penalty he's conceded. But all the sort of trademarks of Liverpool last season as they swept to that title, they're not there anymore. The intensity, the pressing, the leadership, the attacking play from fullbacks. Mo Salah, where's Mo Salah gone? It's really worrying. Now, look, the headlines over the next few days, in Martin's paper and I'm sure across Fleet Street, will be about Slot's future. But I'm sure Liverpool will stay firm. But this is really poor because the players have just lost something. I know they've lost Diogo Jota, but, they've got, and that's tragic. And we only know sort of how much that has affected them on a human level. There was a glimpse of it when Andy Robertson spoke after Scotland's victory. So clearly it is an issue. But, they've got to get on with, difficult to get on with life after what's happened to there, but they've got to get on with resurrecting this season, which is just going from bad to worse. They've now slipped out of the Champions League sort of seeded position, so it looks like they're going to have a playoff next year as well. So look, it's terrible, but Slot's going to get all the stick for this, but the players have got to take responsibility too.
Yeah, they really do. It'll be interesting to hear what the players say in their post-match press conference, and indeed what Arne Slot says in his post-match press conference. Let's take you to the back of the Times. Their headline: Shambolic Liverpool in crisis. Players booed off at Anfield after third consecutive bruising defeat. We saw, Martin, defensive frailties again from this Liverpool side. Kerkez and his defending problems. Van Dijk conceding a penalty. Konate at fault for one of the goals as well. How much is this down to mental issues? We know they're good players. Mental issues. Perhaps the pressure of the situation is overwhelming them?
Well, a lot has changed in football, say, the last 20 or 30 years, but nothing causes alarm in a boardroom like a football ground empty before the finish and the sound of jeers at full time as Arne Slot faced as he walked onto the pitch. This is a crisis now, 9 defeats in 12, and Arne Slot yesterday said Liverpool is not a club where losing can become normal in any way. That second half performance, the players look like they are used to conceding goals. It was interesting to hear Steven Gerrard's thoughts, who was at the game and seemed fairly supportive for much of the match, but towards the end and kind of in his summary said the defence that finished that game was Curtis Jones, Gravenbach, Van Dijk and Kerkez, and he said that is not a Liverpool back four and it never will be. It feels like this was supposed to be the season when Arne Slot's style of football came to the fore with those attacking signings that Liverpool made in what was at the time this glorious summer of spending with Alexander Isak and Wirtz and Hugo Ekitike and Kerkez as well. And there's only really Ekitike that has done anything out of that quartet. Feels like last season was the remnants of Jurgen Klopp's style managed very well by Arne Slot. This season feels more like they are trying to play Arne Slot's style of football, and it's kind of, you've gone from the heavy metal of Klopp to this kind of light jazz of Slot, and it has no intensity. So when they concede the fourth goal, which you can see when you watch that rerun back, there's no intensity from the players to get back. The back four, it's not a line, it's all over the place. There's no cohesion. You're talking about, is there unity inside that dressing room? Well, go and watch Alexander Isak sat on the bench when Szoboszlai equalises, and you'll find most people's houses have more excitement when the takeaway driver arrives than he showed that night. It's the faintest of claps at a time when they need everybody pulling together. They need spirit, desire. So yes, there is so much that appears to have gone wrong in a very short space of time. But to come back to the point at the beginning, they spent heavily in the summer to make this a more attacking team. And at the minute, I don't think anybody is quite sure what it is other than a losing team, and one that eventually Liverpool will not accept. The noises so far is that Arne Slot's position is safe, but it will not be safe as long as this run continues, where they are conceding goals. To concede and lose by 3 goals in 3 successive games will cause huge alarm inside the corridors of power at Liverpool. Defensively, they missed out on Mark Gay in the summer, and that actually is proven to be the most significant bit of transfer action for a club that spent £450 million. This really is a crisis, as that my paper, The Times' back page has said there. So it's going to be really interesting with hard games coming up to see what happens next. Nobody would have thought Liverpool playing away at West Ham would have been a difficult game when everybody in the summer said they were going to walk the title. But it's a massive, massive match now.
Yeah, it really is. Back page of the Telegraph, their headline, it's Code Red Slot. Humiliated Liverpool go from crisis to full-blown emergency. This is the 3rd loss on the bounce now. Before I get your opinions, Martin and Henry, let's hear from the man himself.
Arne, I thought first half the way you came back, you looked the likelier to go on and win that. So from your perspective, what changed second half that enabled PSV to regain the initiative?
Mainly the goal, I think. Although in the start of the second half, before they scored the goal, we already struggled more than in the first half. We had more problems, or I wouldn't say problem, but we had more difficulty in being as aggressive in the press as we were in the first half. That had a bit to do with Hugo Ekitike, who straight after half-time felt his back a little bit, and that's why his press wasn't as aggressive as the first 45 minutes, and I know, because I follow the Dutch league, if you are not aggressive enough against PSV, they have players that can outplay you, because they're a very good team, very good football players on the ball. And that's what we saw in the second goal they scored. But again, after they scored the second goal, I think we had our chances to equalize. But not for the first time this season. We don't take the chances we have.
Okay, so those are the words of Arne Slot immediately after that defeat. Henry, looking at his body language, hearing the tone of his voice and his cadence, looks like he's out of answers. I mean, does he look like a man to you who knows what to do, how to take this team forward?
I mean, we only saw one clip there. I would hope that he would also, in the rest of the press conference and his television interviews, just show some anger, some hurt, because the Liverpool fans are streaming away, as Martin says, was streaming away early from Anfield. They will want to be feeling that. I think it's a time for hard work on the training ground to try and get Mark Gahey in, if they can, in January. But a lot of this is self-inflicted. I mean, Martin covered it very ably in the summer. Alexander Isak is clearly not fit. I mean, and that is his fault, and that is Liverpool's fault if they come in with a more acceptable bid for Newcastle United. He might have moved early, and you've probably got some angry Swedes listening in who are saying, well, actually, we could have done with him at the start of the season to help us with qualification. So no sympathy for Isak if he's not 100% fit. It was he who ruined his pre-season. And then if Liverpool had acted earlier, they would have got Mark Gahey, because Oliver Glasner, quite rightly, was talking to a very intelligent board, and particularly Steve Parish, and saying that, look, I will only countenance Mark Gahey, captain, lead centre-half, leaving if we can get someone else in. If Liverpool had acted earlier in the transfer window, they would have got Gahey, they would have got Isak. Might have taken a little bit longer, but they would have got him. And then they wouldn't have had these issues. But I think your point, Jess, earlier is completely right. There is a psychological issue here, whether it's something between the players and the manager. But let's remember, this is the manager of the year. We can't just throw Arne Slot out. And I'm always amused, well, not amused, but bemused by these debates about, let's get rid of the manager. Who are Liverpool going to bring in of sufficient quality to replace Arne Slot, the manager of the year, and get these players going again? So the players have got to take individual responsibility. The recruitment's got to be better and sharper if they can get the right people in, if they can get Gahey in January. But I think one person who is going to be on his way out is Ibrahima Konate.
Yeah, be interesting to see what, if anything, Liverpool do in the January transfer window. Henry and Martin, thank you for the moment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be looking at more of the sports stories in the morning's papers, including this in the Sun. Noni's joy at first goal in statement win over Bayern. Stay with us. Hello again, you're watching Back Pages tonight, and welcome back to Henry Winter and Martin Hardy. Let's discuss Arsenal, because what a night it was for them. 3-1 winners against Bayern Munich, the only team now remaining in this Champions League group phase with a 100% record. And you can see that back page there in the Mail. Red hot. Gunners fire a warning to Euro rivals as Bayern are taken apart. Henry, this was a really impressive win for Arsenal against top European opposition.
Yeah, with Harry Kane, a former current Spurs legend, leading the attack, so they will have particularly enjoyed that. I mean, Bayern did produce a fabulous goal, sort of 20-pass move, but Madueke, I mean, how special is that going to be? I mean, I just went and checked to see how the petition that Arsenal fans started in the transfer window, say no to Madueke. It's got 5,217 people have signed it, pleading with the club not to sign Madueke. I can't imagine there will be many more added to that tonight, plus he's already signed. And I just think that, he's a good player, and Arsenal are going to need the strength and depth this season. When you go to Arsenal nowadays, you look at the team sheet, but you look at the bench, and the bench has got so much talent. If you saw the goal that Max Dowman scored for was it the under-17s in the Youth League earlier today, the skill cutting in from the right, the talent that they have got, credit to Hale End, their academy there, and also to their recruitment. I mean, Gyökeres has not been playing recently, but what a signing he's been. Eberechi Eze, and this is the strength they've got. So Eze, who's been outstanding for the last month for Arsenal, he comes off. Martin Odegaard comes on. There's slight concern, obviously, with Trossard having to go off injured, but the strength in depth they've got. Miles Lewis-Skelly started today. Calafiori's been fantastic at left back for them recently. Mosquera's stepped in at the defence today, with Gabriel still out. So it's this strength in depth, it's this confidence. They've been building and building and building under Arteta towards this. They're now top of the Premier League, top of the Champions League in this elongated stage of the season, and they've got the strength in depth. So look, they're not going to be crowing, they're not going to be booking any sort of parade buses yet, but they will be confident.
And Martin, with this strength in depth, it means, I assume, that you think that they can compete on all fronts and possibly end up with multiple trophies at the end of the season.
I watched Newcastle beat Manchester City on Saturday, and they'd kind of been emerging as potentially the greatest challengers to Arsenal this season. And you watched and you thought they're not ready. Pep's reaction, Newcastle won. Pep's reaction afterwards, arguing with the cameraman, arguing with Bruno Guimaraes, told you that perhaps he too doesn't think that. It's difficult to see who can get a hold of them in the Premier League, and they're top of the Premier League right now. And yes, we are in November. They're top of the Champions League. In the two formats that amongst the highest level of football at club level that you can find. They've played 17 games, won 14, drawn 2, lost 1, goals 4, 38 and against 7. It's a phenomenal start of the season. They've done much of that they're playing at the minute without Havertz or Gabriel Jesus or Gyökeres, without a centre forward still. Mikel Arteta has received criticism in the past for that failure to deliver a trophy, but what he is building here looks like it's much more solid than throwing the odd cup into the boardroom. They look at the minute like they, as Henry said, the squad keeps getting stronger. Madueke and Eze have been really, really good offensive signings in the summer. That makes them much more dangerous. They have this, I think the free kick they've scored tonight means they've scored more free kicks than any team in Europe. It may not be my favourite way of watching football, but it gives them another bit of strength to their armoury. They will fight you if you want now, because they're much stronger than they were a few years ago with Arteta, but they also have brilliant footballers. And as Henry just touched upon there, Martin Odegaard is one of my favourite players to watch. They are doing this without him, and the record when he plays, I think they win twice as many games as the percentages twice as high. He will be crucial as well. A long, long way to go, but so many good signs for Arsenal and their supporters at the minute.
OK, that's two of the three English teams that are in action tonight in the Champions League. The other was Spurs, and what a goal fest there was at the Parc des Princes against the reigning European champions PSG. 5-3 losers at Spurs in that one. You can see it there on the right-hand side of the back page of the Mirror. Spurs get hit by Vit after a Vitinha hat-trick. And it was Martin, it was twice that Spurs led in this game, unable to hold on, perhaps reflective of their season.
Yeah, I posted a video of a throw-in when they were losing 3-1 against Arsenal on Sunday in the big North London derby, just to highlight how passive they were. Nobody really wanted the ball. The ball went back within 25 seconds of a Tottenham throw-in that nobody wanted. Arsenal had scored and Eze had finished his hat-trick and it was 4-1 in game over. The surprise I got was the size of the reaction and the fact that a lot of it was from Tottenham fans who said this is not good enough, this style of play is not good enough. So yes, it's a defeat tonight for Tottenham, but at least they put a shift in. They give PSG, seen, probably you would say now, along with Arsenal and Bayern Munich as the favourites for the Champions League, they give them a game tonight. And yes, they fell away late on. But Thomas Frank, who, if you look at league tables in terms of the Champions League and the Premier League, you would say has made a decent start, doesn't appear to have won over certain sections of the support. I think going there tonight, playing 5 at the back, having faced that kind of criticism, was quite a big call from him. He, in recent weeks, has said, if you give me time, I will build a football team. As we know, as Henry and I know, a lot of the time you do not get time to build that team and that squad that you want. It's not, obviously they've lost tonight, but to have seen a little bit of fight, desire, goals, they are still missing key players. We do have to remember that in Kulusevski, Solanke and Maddison. He needed a win, but he also needed a shift, and I think he got a little bit of that tonight.
Okay, I want to turn our attentions now back to the back page of the Mail, where they're covering this Ronaldo story. The headline, FIFA risk legal action after let-off for Ronaldo. And after his red card, Henry, it seems as though he won't be serving the full 3-match ban straight away. He will be cleared to start the World Cup with Portugal next summer. What do you make of this?
Well, who knew that if you hit 226 international caps, that was the threshold for reprieves? Yeah, I mean, it's embarrassing, really. I think it undermines FIFA's disciplinary process. It's clearly all about marketing, and they want the star on the starter line for the World Cup. I think it's also a little bit embarrassing for Ronaldo, because Ronaldo's career has been based on hard work, dedication. Look at the shape of him at 40. He doesn't need people to give him shortcuts like this, and FIFA have given him one. Whether it's about politics, whether it's about Trump, obviously Ronaldo was in the White House recently. But look, it's marketing, it's money, and I think coming to Mike's very good piece, and Mike's very well sourced on these issues, is that if whoever they get drawn against, Portugal get drawn against, they might say that for those first 2 games, well, hang on a sec, Ronaldo shouldn't be playing, and they might appeal that. So it could be like the draw is next week. It might be interesting to see if any teams do respond to that. I don't think they will, and you can have an argument, are Portugal better with Ronaldo or without? That's a slightly longer argument, but it's embarrassing for FIFA, and it does slightly take away the edge from the World Cup a bit. Okay,
shortly coming to time, but we've got a couple of stories to get through. Back page of The Telegraph, they're covering Sheffield Wednesday here. The headline, as you can see it there, Ashley makes £20 million bid for Sheffield Wednesday. This is the former Newcastle owner, Mike Ashley, making a bid for Sheffield Wednesday, or of course in administration. He's had his initial bid rejected, may well come back with an increased offer. Now, Martin, I know you've covered the North East and you've covered Newcastle when Ashley was at the helm. What do you think the fans, possibly Sheffield Wednesday, would make of Mike Ashley coming back into football and owning their club potentially?
Given that Sheffield Wednesday, the gap to safety at the minute because of the points deduction, I think after tonight's results is now 20 points. How despised the former owner was, I think they would probably take anybody. I lived through the Ashley regime at Newcastle. A lot of it was painful, very flat, very little growth. What he would bring to Sheffield Wednesday, however, is that level of bookkeeping, going through every little ounce of the club's books to make sure they're not losing anything. He's had a desire to get back into football. You've seen it with Derby, Coventry and Reading in terms of he wants to take over a football club. The governance of Newcastle in terms of the finance, the club was never going to go bankrupt under him, but it did get relegated 2 times. And I think Sheffield Wednesday fans right now would probably say, yes, we will. I think, I don't really want to speak for Sheffield Wednesday fans. I think given the current situation, they will want somebody at the helm that knows what they're doing in terms of running a football club, knows about finance, will bring his people in to try and sort out what has been a chaotic period in a real big club's recent history. You know, I'm sure Newcastle fans will not be pleased to see Mike Ashley back in football, but in terms of the governance that he will bring to that club, would be a lot better than the chaos that preceded him if he gets control.
Yeah, and just briefly, let's touch on the back of the Metro, where they are hailing Esteval, the special one, after his performances for Chelsea recently. Just a teenager, Henry, but doing so well. You've got about 30 seconds here to just wax lyrical about a phenomenal talent.
First, we have to praise Enzo Maresca. He's given this fantastic teenager who's come into a different league. Obviously, he doesn't speak the language, and he's given him, 8 starts and 9 appearances off the bench. But he's special. You saw that goal. As a 10, as a winger, fabulous player. We're going to be hearing so much more about this talent.
Yeah. What a talent he is. Henry, Martin, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us. If you missed any of the show, another chance, as always, to see back pages at hour. It's also available as a podcast. Just download it on Apple or Spotify. And you can join us again on Thursday night, where our guests will be Jonathan Liu and Jason Burt. Looking forward to having a chat. That's from 10:30 on Thursday. Coming next, though, on Sky Sports News, much more on Liverpool's defeat in the Champions League. They were 4-1 losers at Anfield to PSV Eindhoven. What will the manager have to say about that?